guest today is someone who literally makes it rain with knowledge. He's a meteorologist who knows his cumulus from his cumulonimbus. And when he's not chasing storms, he's chasing after his two daughters at home. He's also a proud husband, weather enthusiast, and probably the only person you know who gets excited about cold fronts. Please welcome the one and only Steve Shiveley.
Thank you.
Did I pronounce that right? Cumulonimbus?
Yeah, you nailed it. Yep.
I had to Google. I did a little Google and a little practice ahead of time. So I have no idea what that is, but I'm sure we'll get into it.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Wait, but do you like cold fronts? Do you get excited for them?
Yes, I've lived in Florida my whole life, so I get very excited about cold fronts.
I don't think you're the only one, though. I think that was the only fallacy in the intro.
Yeah. And the Make It Rain was perfect because I'm literally wearing a t-shirt that says Make It Rain.
Didn't even notice.
I knew. He called me this morning. He said, Christy, I'm going to wear a Make It Rain shirt. So when you do your intro, make sure you throw that in there. I'm going to do some what we call quick questions.
Okay.
So they're fun. They're not difficult in any way. Okay. If you were a cloud, what type would you be?
I'm a modest.
Okay.
Never even heard of that.
Worst weather
You said
to be
quick, so I
stuck
won't
in.
explain it.
Yeah. Worst weather to be stuck in with no coffee.
With no coffee. Probably a hurricane.
Wait. When you go on vacation, do you still check the weather 10 times a day?
Yes.
If lightning had a theme song, what would it be?
What's that AC/DC one? I can't remember off the top of my head now.
Is it Rocky Like
Rocky
a Hurricane?
Like a Hurricane. There you go.
There
That
we
was
go.
AC/DC.
What's the snack of choice during a thunderstorm?
Right now, I'm really into Nutter Butters again. I've been eating those a lot.
Ooh, those are good. What's your weather pet peeve that drives you nuts when people talk about it?
I think my weather pet peeve is the joke that everybody says that, oh, it must be nice to be wrong all the time and still have a job.
Yeah.
Like I haven't heard it 100 times.
Yeah. If you could control the weather for one day, what would you do with it?
We would wake up in like the upper 40s. And then the afternoon would be like the mid 60s, sunny, a nice little breeze, just nice, quiet, comfortable weather.
Okay. Describe a tornado using only sound effects.
I think that was pretty good.
Wait, can we get that again? No, with the hand motion too. That was perfect.
Seems accurate.
There's your clip, Christina. What's the diva of all weather events?
The diva of all weather events. That's a hard one. What's a diva of all weather events? I guess maybe I'd say hurricanes for that one again.
Okay. Rain boots or flip-flops?
Flip-flops.
Favorite movie about a weather event?
I would have to say, man, it's a tie. I like the new Twisters 2 movie, but I like The Perfect Storm, even though it's so inaccurate weather-wise. I think it's just a fun movie.
That is a good movie. Do you and groundhogs have turf wars in February?
Oh, God, yes. Yes, we hate the groundhog. It's a rival of ours. Why are you listening to Road It? Yes, definitely.
Would you rather be stuck in a blizzard or in a heat wave forever?
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 Mm-hmm.
Oh, gosh. I guess still a heat wave, even though I hate the hot. I don't know if I can survive a blizzard forever.
Okay. What's your favorite weather pun or joke?
Oh, man. I can't think of it. I should think.
You're
I
a
should
dad.
know
I
what
feel
the
like
joke.
you gotta have some.
I know, and I do, but you put me on the spot, and now I'm going mind blank on weather jokes.
Well, you kind of told that one earlier about always keeping a job and being wrong.
Oh yeah,
That was good.
Yeah.
All right, last question.
That was good. He's like, I hate this joke. You're like, that was a good one.
As we go on, I'm sure a joke will pop in my mind at some point.
Yeah, you'll have something. All right, last question. When's the last time you thought about the Roman Empire?
The last time I heard a joke about people talking about men always think about the Roman Empire.
Valid.
So it's not on your daily thoughts.
No, it's not on my day. No.
Christina threw that in for our last male guest, so I was like, oh, I gotta throw it in there.
What was his answer? Was it like all the time?
No,
He was
like
dumbfounded.
high
He was like,
school?
Yeah, he had never heard the joke or anything. So it was very,
I know the joke. I definitely know the joke.
oh, that's funny.
All right, good job with
Thank
your
you.
quick questions.
Yeah, those were good questions, Christy. I like those.
Thanks. Thought of them all by myself. Didn't use ChatGPT or nothing.
So, Steve, tell us like how you got into meteorology, what made you interested in it in the first place, and how long you've been doing this.
So I do like the story of how I got interested in meteorology. I grew up in Florida. I've lived out of the state maybe a total of 9 years out of my 38 years. So I've been in the state for 30 years of my life. I grew up in Ocala, and it was Christmas Eve morning in 1989. So it was the morning of Christmas Eve at like 2 a.m. My parents shake me awake and tell me to come outside, and it actually snowed in Florida.
Wow.
In 1989.
That's cool.
Up in Ocala, where we're a little bit farther north, a little bit more interior, where it gets a little bit colder. And I was just shocked. It's like literally my first real memory, because I was 3 years old, and just seeing all the snow on the ground. And it was just enough where you could still see the grass peeking through the snow. I'm not talking about like feet of snow, but
Yeah.
it was still enough. You know what I mean? And since then, I was just mesmerized. I just love the weather. Every day I would watch the Weather Channel in the morning. And then I would tell my parents what the weather was going to be like and how they should dress according to the weather. A lot of people aren't blessed to know what they want to do their whole lives. A lot of adults still don't know what they want to do. But since 3 years old, I've wanted to be a meteorologist, and that is what I've been. So it's been a blessing. I love it.
That's awesome.
I've been a meteorologist since I was about 20 years old, I guess, since I've been actually doing the job. But I remember in high school, I was in JROTC. And so the Air Force recruiter came in, and I told him about my passion, what I love to do and everything. And he's like, well, you can go to 4 years of college, or you can join the military, and you could be being a meteorologist in a year. I was like, well, let's do that. I want to do it right now. I want to do this. So I was in the Air Force for 4 years as a meteorologist, and I forecasted for Air Force and Army bases in Korea and Japan, which was very rewarding and fun. I loved it. But then I got out after the 4 years. I got my degree at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University over in Daytona Beach. It's a smaller private college over there, more known for engineering and flying planes more than meteorology. And then I was actually a TV meteorologist for 4 years. I did a year in Salisbury, Maryland, up in the Delmarva Peninsula. Then I did 3 years in TV in Macon, Georgia, which is about an hour and a half south of Atlanta. And then I got this job down here in Tampa. I work for the National Weather Service now, so I work for the government. And we're actually the ones that issue all the watches and warnings, all the hurricane and tornado advisories you see and all that stuff. And we do a lot of support of emergency managers and, all that stuff. And that's what I've been doing now since 2016.
Nice.
Wow. That's awesome.
That's kind of cool to hear the military background piece of it, because I always knew that you were a veteran, but I didn't know really how that pieced in with meteorology,
Yeah.
So,
Like, who knew they had their own meteorologist?
Oh, yeah. Well, especially
nice.
the Air Force, you think, all those planes they're flying all the time. And so we're giving them all their flight directions and their flight paths and giving them briefings. And a lot of us are embedded in those squadrons where the fighter jets or the cargo jets are. And then same with the Army. They'll go out for a week out in the field somewhere. They probably are interested in what gear they need to pack and stuff like that. So,
Makes sense.
That's neat.
The question is, since snow influenced your very first memory of life, is that how your daughter got her name?
Yes, there was two factors. One was definitely my love of weather. If you don't know, my oldest daughter's name's Snow. That is her name. And the other one is my wife's whole family have S names. So my wife's name's Sarah, her mom's Sarah Upa, her dad is Sam, and then you got Samad, Simon, Sarah, Sydney. I married into the family, and I'm Steven, so I merged right in. So we've kept the S
perfectly.
names. We kept the S names going too, so that was also a factor. It started with S, so that helped too.
That's
Nice.
cute. Everyone in my family's us except for me. So.
Oh, come on.
What's your favorite kind of weather to track?
I do like hurricanes more. Tornadoes are fun to track too, but they're a little bit more short-lived. Hurricanes are over days and weeks. You could be forecasting and tracking hurricanes. So I do love it. And like I said, I grew up in Florida, so we've all experienced hurricanes. I think all of us who lived in Florida long enough have that interest and that drive to kind of watch and track them. So
yeah,
I think all of us grew up in Florida.
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So hurricanes, that's actually, obviously the reason we have you here on the podcast. Last year, we were hit with Hurricane Helene, which ended up going a little bit more north because we were worried it was going to be a direct hit for a little bit, I think. And then I think we even scheduled to have you on the podcast.
We did.
And then Milton came, like literally the day we were supposed to record. But now hurricane season is upon us again, approaching. So we thought, oh, well, let's get him in this time before hurricane season.
Yeah.
So with hurricane season approaching, a big question I had last year, like I kind of geek out a little bit, but I always wait until things are happening to find out about them. But like, how does a hurricane even form? What is that all about?
Yeah, so we need a few ingredients. The big factors why we see them, in the summer months is the water temperatures need to be around 82 degrees. So you need those hot water temperatures, and obviously you need a lot of moisture. That's why they can only form over the ocean, because they're sucking up so much moisture to kind of keep alive and to keep it running. It just can't do it over land. It needs that moisture content. It also needs, some pre-existing cluster of thunderstorms already. So, we get that a lot of times in the Caribbean, or we get it coming off Africa. There'll be storm fronts that come off Africa, and there's already a cluster of thunderstorms, and then it develops. And another huge thing you hear a lot about, especially with Nino and Nina and stuff like that, is wind shear. So hurricanes are vertically stacked, if you think about it, from bottom to top. Because when you see on satellite these really strong hurricanes, there's an eye, and you can literally look down and see the ocean from above on satellite. So they're vertically stacked like that. And it's almost like a vacuum. It needs to be vertically stacked to suck. Literally, it's sucking up. It's sucking up moisture and instability, sucking up into the air and pulling it out at the top. So if you start tilting that storm, it's losing that suction ability. It can't suck up anything anymore. So low wind shear. So we call it wind shear. So when those winds are forcing it to tilt sideways. So it needs low wind shear, cluster of thunderstorms, and those water temperatures at 82 degrees. So those are kind of the three main factors that we need.
Okay. So like for example, when we hear on the news, right? Oh, there might be a hurricane forming in a week. Is that because there is a cluster of thunderstorms and it looks like that could potentially hit the right conditions? Like, how do we know that when it's not actually forming? You know what I mean?
And it is real difficult to forecast. I always tell people it's much easier to forecast a Cat 5 hurricane than it is a tropical storm. Because a Cat 5 hurricane is, we know where the center is, we see its motion, we know where it's going.
Right.
But a cluster of thunderstorms, like they're all the thunderstorms are moving which way. They don't have a cohesive center and stuff like that. It makes it a lot more difficult. I hear a lot about models. It's all about the models. This model, the American model is doing this, the European model is doing this. And each one of these models have slightly different parameters and slightly different math essentially going into them. And one small error in it or one small condition can change it or it gets worse and worse as it goes down the models. So that's why we tell people not to worry about models 2 weeks out, because it starts getting into fantasy land where that math starts getting a little bit more hazy and stuff like that. So I mean, if you look at weather models like I do, the GFS has a hurricane out there about every other day 2 weeks out. It's because those three conditions I talk about are out there all the time. So it's always going to be trying to spin up something all the time. Until we get closer and those models get a little bit better at handling those conditions. But I hope all that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. And then as far as naming hurricanes,
yes.
Can you tell us a little about that? Like, we have the lists already, and I think that they kind of rotate over and over until a storm has basically had a death from the storm, right? And then they like take that out and put something else in.
Yes.
But how does that work?
Yeah, they're on a 6-year rotation. So every 6 years, you'll see the same names again, unless they get retired. They just announced, obviously, that Helene and Milton will be retired. So we'll never hear those names again. Those are for obvious reasons. You know, you don't want Tropical Storm Katrina heading towards Florida.
No.
I mean, even though you say tropical storm, people are going to think Katrina and say, oh my gosh, you know, this is terrible.
Yeah.
So we don't want to bring up those bad memories of people. And then some storms just don't meet that criteria. So if you remember earlier in the season, we had Debbie. Dumped a lot of rain, especially over like Manatee County. Bradenton got 10 or 15, some places 20 inches of rain from it. But it still didn't make enough impact to be retired. So we'll see Debbie again in 6 years, which is a funny story. Every time we have a Debbie, it seems to affect Florida. So in 6 years, when you hear Debbie,
oh, geez,
watch out for that one.
That's funny.
But we don't name them. And NHC, National Hurricane Center, doesn't name them. It's the World Meteorological Association every year comes together, decides to retire names and what names to replace in there. A fun fact is that until 1979, all the names were female names.
Oh,
why
wow.
is that?
And
That's
then-
rude.
Oh yeah, that's essentially what they said. Is when we're like, that seems kind of messed up, you know. That so then now we do every other. So one, it's male, female, male, female, male. So it goes in order now.
Right.
So, you know, after Debbie, I don't know what was after Debbie this year. A, B, C, D, E. I don't know what the E name storm last year, but it was a male's name. You know what I mean? So they'll go in order like that. And we use English names and Spanish names. So that's why some of the names seem like some of the names you're like, how do I pronounce this? Or I haven't really heard this. What name is this?
Yeah.
It's common, like, you know, Spanish name instead of an English name. So that's why some of them
I didn't
are.
know that.
Like Ernesto was one a few years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so let's say a hurricane is approaching. Can you walk us through what a day at work would look like for you as the storm is approaching, and then also like once the storm is here?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So, you know, our office is actually down in Ruskin. We call ourselves the Tampa Bay office, but we're actually located down in Ruskin. And so a typical day, we have maybe 2 or 3 meteorologists working at a time. We're 24/7 operations, no matter how nice the weather is, there's always someone there. But we also support emergency managers. We support your local officials and all those people. So when you hear about evacuations and you see these, you know, mayors and all these people up on stage telling you how to be prepared and what's going on, they're getting all that information from us. We don't make those decisions. I want to be very clear. We don't make any of the decisions.
Yeah.
But we give them the information to answer the questions that they need to know to make their decisions for them.
You advise them.
I advise them, exactly. We're essentially advisors for all of them. So obviously, you know, when a hurricane comes, our workload is a lot more. We also do what we call grids or weather forecasts. You know, you can go on, instead of weather.com, you go on weather.gov and put in your address and you'll get a 7-day forecast. That's from us. We create it and we do all that stuff. Well, when a hurricane comes, that grid production doubles. We're making a lot more graphics. We're making a lot more things that the normal person wouldn't know we make. If you know how to look for them, you can find them. And we make those for the emergency managers and the city and county officials. So our workload, even in a tropical storm, doubles. And we're making at least 2 times a day weather briefings for all of our counties and all of our emergency managers. We're briefing them. We have slides. We're answering all the questions for them. Like the most common thing is they want to know when tropical storm force winds will arrive, because that's when they need to shut down everything. Hillsborough County police, once tropical storm force winds, they pull everything inside. And that's why they're always trying to be prepared for these storms, because they pull them when those tropical storm force winds start. So we have those briefings. You can call us. You know, your taxpayers' dollars are at work. So normal people are calling us on the phone, emergency managers, and news stations. We do news interviews, CNN, Fox, and anything you can think of, local news. We're doing news interviews either over the phone or we're doing them on camera. What else are we doing? We're doing all of the normal stuff we do too.
Wow.
So it's a lot of stuff. We have special briefings for the airport. We do special airport briefings so they need to know when to shut down. We do special briefings for the Port of Tampa. So they need to know when they need to stop their operations and get the fuel ships in and out. Because, you know, the first question after the hurricane ends is, when's the gas coming back in?
Right.
Port? So, I mean, it is a lot. We switched to 12-hour shifts. We're working 12-hour shifts on and off. You have to imagine during all this, like in a Milton situation, we're working these 12-hour shifts. We still have our own families. I've still got to board at my house. I still have to, I made sure my family evacuated. So you have the same stressors that everyone else is having. Plus you're having to go in and do your job for 12 hours too. So,
yeah. And you're having to be the neighborhood meteorology advisor as well. So
yes, that is too. Yeah, I do
but
that
it's
too.
crazy
I like
me
to keep people informed. Yeah.
how much work you guys do at your office, but people don't really know that about you because you guys aren't the one on like NBC, ABC that everyone's watching 24/7. They're just up there, pointing at things and then taking the information you're giving them. Like, you guys are really the backbone of hurricane season. And I would have never known had you not shared with us. So thank you for your service.
Yeah. And then you mentioned during the hurricane. So like Milton, we've done it since I've been here, we've done it for Milton, Irma, and Ian. We lock ourselves on the office. So when we think tropical storm force winds will start, even if our families decide to ride out the storms at home, we don't get to ride out with them. We have to go to the office, we shut it down, we bring our air mattresses. And I think, Milton and Irma, I was in the office for 36 hours straight. We sleep there, we live there, and all that stuff.
Are you salary or hourly?
We are hourly. So.
Oh, nice.
Milton was very nice to me, at least in that.
Yes, racking in those overtime hours.
Nice.
Well, we have massive generators too. We can run our whole office for 7 days, like refrigerator, everything. We have like huge generators that run our office. So after Milton, my family was still down in Fort Myers where they evacuated from. And so that night I walked back to my house because, I'm done. I've been in the office for 36 hours. I'm finally home. Well, I have no power, no AC, no nothing. It's hot. It's miserable. And I have to be back at work the next morning. And I'm like, what am I doing? I'm not going to be miserable in my house. I just went back to the office and slept in the office again. I'm like, there's air conditioning there.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So you mentioned that everything like kind of shuts down when tropical storm force winds arrive, right? I think a big point of contention as storms are approaching for parents is the shutdown of schools. And they always get so irate over schools being shut down before they should be, right? Can you talk a little bit on that point?
Yeah, so the whole public county school system as a whole, they can't just shut down one school, not shut down another. They've got to shut down the whole district, the whole Hillsborough County at once.
Right, so everyone's on the same schedule.
Because schools are evacuation shelters. That's where people need to evacuate. So you need to remember they have to set those evacuation areas up. And then there's storms like Helene, which for inland people like us did not affect us that much. It really didn't. But it was the worst storm surge Tampa Bay seen in 100 years. Helene produced 6 to 7 feet of storm surge. People along the coast were devastated. People still aren't in their house along the coast. Mm-hmm. And there's schools that are along the coast too. So even though it didn't affect those inland counties as much, Hillsborough County still had to evacuate everybody and get everybody out because of the storm surge, because it was devastating to those communities.
Definitely.
So that's kind of why it happens too, is they need to prepare. They need to prepare the schools and doing all that kind of stuff too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a good thing for people to keep in mind, as storms approaching, like it's not just your bubble, but it's a greater bubble that includes a lot of people. So you're locked in there 36 plus hours. What is I know you like Nutter Butter, okay, but what do you pack? Like, what's your survival kit for this storm?
Well, I'm kind of the opposite of everybody else because, everyone is going to get their non-perishables, which you should. That's what everyone should do. They should get, their chips, anything that doesn't need to be in the refrigerator. Please don't get milk. It's going to go bad. I've never understood the milk thing. But, all those non-perishable food items, all that stuff. But me, I know I'm going to be somewhere where I have a generator that's going to be running all the time. So I go in there and start grabbing everything no one else grabs, the freezer stuff, those made for TV dinners, or like I think this last time I got like chicken and Alfredo, like a bag, that's like freezer, because I'm gonna have to power my office. So
you're gonna be eating good.
Yeah, so I'm eating good.
You deserve it, though. You deserve it.
Everyone else is like, "Oh, this is gonna go bad. I'm not gonna buy this." I'm like, I'm gonna do my So my preparation is a lot different than everybody else because I do have that small that small advantage, I guess. The good part of it. I know I'm going to be in a place that has power.
Yeah. The slight benefits, right?
Yeah.
So we often hear like to hide from the wind and run from the water. Can you talk to that point?
That is great. I'm happy you know the saying right off the top of your head. That's amazing. So, no, it is. Most people don't know that. You hide from the wind and run from the water. We know we say that because water is the number one killer in hurricanes. It's the storm surge. That's what kills most people is the water. The wind is terrible. Don't get me wrong. And I think I mentioned that a few times, Christina, in the Facebook group. We have a Facebook group for our community. When I was talking, everybody's like, "Can we ride out the storm? Can we ride out the storm at our houses?" And I was like, "Yeah, you could." We don't have any big mature oak trees in our community that's going to fall on a house. Our houses are built to withstand that type of wind. Now, is it going to be fun? Absolutely not. You lost power. I can imagine no one was home at my house, but we lost like a quarter of our roof shingles. I can just imagine hearing roof shingles ripping off my roof as I'm sitting there with no power.
The septic.
Yeah.
You guys have the septic issue in your neighborhood.
And all that stuff, but you were alive. And that's the most important thing, right? But the water, it will pick up houses and take them away. It just destroys these houses and pull people in the ocean and kills people. And that's why, a lot of people, when we have these evacuation orders, everyone's like, well, I can't get out of town. I can't, people was driving all the way up to Atlanta, getting out of the state of Florida to avoid Milton, which if you have the means and the money, you're more than welcome to do it. But if you don't have those means to get that far away, just get out of the storm surge area. Just get away from the coast. That's all you need to do. Just get inland. If you have a cousin or an uncle that lives in Polk County or something, just get inland. Just get over there and stay with them for a couple of days. You don't need to drive to Atlanta or drive, to the other side of the state. Just get away from the storm surge, because that's the number one thing that's going to get you in these storms.
Well, the highways get all backed up, and then people are running out of gas. And I feel like there have been hurricanes in the past where I've had friends leave to go do that. And then the hurricane turns and ends up hitting them where they went to, and their house was fine.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I always err on just staying where I'm at, because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and it's a personal choice. As long as you're outside the storm surge unit and you're not in an evacuation zone where they're making you evacuate, it's a decision for you. If you live in an older house and you have two big oak trees hanging over your house, I would say not stay.
It's scary.
Yeah, a little common sense in those aspects too. But just if you just need to get inland a little bit, that's fine. If you were over just in Lakeland, it would have been better than being right along the coast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's all you really need to do. I mean, obviously, I try to get my family farther away as a personal choice because we have two young kids, and I knew with me being away pretty much for 2 or 3 days, it'd be miserable for my wife to try to deal with that with no power for a few days. So it's better to get them. I tried to get them out of the zone where I thought, they'd have a good chance of having power and, stuff like that. So
yeah. So the girls like to razz me a little bit because I'm maybe like the more cautious, over-prepared one in our group. So we have our hurricane bins, which we keep them in the under the stairs closet, right? Yeah. We have like a month's worth of freeze-dried food that will be good until our kids go to college. We have batteries, flashlights, fans, whatever. We have like everything, right? Yeah. So when the storms come, it's all right there. I don't have to go panic buy things because I've got it. Which, as you know, because we even loaned you some things when you guys lost power. We got ours back a little earlier. Can you talk about the importance of maybe having an emergency prep kit? What should be in it? Like, what would you recommend that people stock so you don't have to go out right before the storm comes?
Let me take notes. Because we are not prepared ever.
Jenna, we'll go to Costco together and make our bins.
Perfect. Yeah. We'll do that next week.
Well, like I said, the one thing which I always have a ton of is a ton of batteries, because if we have kids, you have lots of batteries because they have 14,000 batteries in them. You need lanterns. People always say flashlights, and flashlights are nice, but I like, you can get those little tiny lanterns, and that way you can like light up whole rooms, with them and stuff like that. So you need that kind of stuff, The food is the big thing for me. So, non-perishable food items, stuff that can sit in essentially if it can go in your pantry, that's what I'm talking about. So if you have kids, get the, stocked up, make sure you always have PB&J ready, make sure you have those chips and those food ready. If you have a generator, make sure you have gas for the generator ready to go. Don't wait until the hurricane
You got to wait in 3-hour car line.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or for your cars, fill those things up, at the beginning of hurricane season. Then every month, just, because gas can only sit so long, drain it into your car and then fill it back up again, stuff like that.
That's smart.
Stuff like, dog food for your animals, all that kind of stuff is good. But that's the main thing. And a couple days before the storm, I always say start charging everything because you're going to need it. iPads, make sure, you can do offline stuff on them for your kids. Netflix, Disney, you can download movies, make sure they're all charged up.
Yeah.
Make sure you have external chargers. That's always a huge thing too for your cell phone so you can get information out and stuff like that. Make sure you have a cell phone that, you have like 4 or 5 external chargers you can recharge your cell phone up. I know it sounds old fashioned, but make sure you have like an old analog radio. Worst case scenario, if everything goes out, you can turn on the radio and they'll have updates on the radio and stuff like that. We have a lot of radio people that call in while hurricanes are coming through so we can talk to, the people listening to the radio and stuff like that. Yeah,
we have a hand crank radio that the kids actually really love. Like they'll sit and crank it.
Yeah. So all those things are, great. And that's the most important thing. Have water. Obviously you need to buy tons of water. One thing is for the obvious, which is for to drink it. But another thing is for flushing the toilet. If you, if you lose water, you're going to want that. You're going to want some extra water. So, I mean, and there's some life hacks too that people say, like what we did last year is we bought a lot of ice before the storm hit and we threw all the ice in our freezer. And well, if we got power back before 7 days, all of our stuff in our freezer would have been fine because we bought a ton of ice and threw it in the freezer to keep that food kind of safe. And we also threw ice in our refrigerator too. And that way it kind of kept that stuff cool for a little bit.
Kept it cold.
Yeah.
That's smart.
So, does that penny trick really work where you fill a cup up with water, freeze it, and put a penny on the top?
Yeah.
And then if it sinks to the bottom, then all your food's bad.
Yeah, that's a good trick. If you guys haven't heard it, so you get a cup of water, you freeze it with ice, and then you put a penny on top of it. And then if you come back from a hurricane or stuff like that and your power's already back on, you don't know how long you lost it, you can see where the penny was. If the penny's like just a little down in the cup, you didn't lose power that long. But if the penny's all the way down and refrozen at the bottom of the cup, you've lost power for a few days and probably everything in there is probably bad now.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So we know the official predictions for hurricane season are coming out, I think, in a week, right?
Yep.
We want your predictions. What do you think? How many storms are we going to have this year? What's going on, Steve?
Yeah, so it's kind of a hard forecast this year because I mentioned it before. I don't know if you've heard of Nino or Nina before. But what it is it's crazy. It's something in the Pacific. It's like a South American gyro. But what it does, which a gyro is just a big spinning thing. What it does is affects the wind shear on the Atlantic side. Because remember, we mentioned wind shear before. So Nina, the A one, which is the female one, causes lower wind shear. And that helps obviously just be more hurricanes. And then Nino, the one that ends in O, that increases the wind shear and prevents hurricanes from forming. So that's always a big factor to look at. But this year, we're neutral. We don't have either of those things out there. So it makes it a little bit more difficult because that's kind of what we lean on to kind of figure out how active hurricane season is. But ocean temperatures are already starting to warm up. They're already above average. So we're already seeing I think we're already at 80 on the beaches already in early May this year. So, the deeper waters take a little bit longer to warm up. But that's another reason why hurricanes happen later in the season. They're not happening in July when we're the hottest.
That makes sense.
August and September. The oceans take a little bit longer to warm up. Then they hold that heat longer, too. And that's when you get the Miltons, these October hurricanes, when we're actually...
Yeah, that October one was...
Yeah.
That was late.
So, I think we're still going to have a slightly above average season. I don't think it's going to be record breaking. I know last year everyone was forecasting a record breaking season. I don't think it's going to be that bad. But I always like to remind people it only takes one storm. It only takes one hurricane.
Right.
It doesn't matter what the
Right.
forecast really says.
Right.
My favorite example is Andrew. It was an A-named storm.
Andrew
And it was in
terrible.
August. And it was
Christina and I lived through that.
Yep.
In South Florida.
Yep. And it was technically a below average season that year. The first named storm wasn't until August, and we really didn't have a lot of systems that year. But did it matter? Nope. South Florida still got severely impacted. So, you don't need an above average season to be prepared or watch out for these hurricanes.
Okay, be right back. I'm going to go board up my windows, okay?
All right.
Oh, I thought you were for real. That is another thing I wanted to say for people that have never experienced a hurricane or lived through one. You're like, oh, get the lantern to light up the room, because even during the day, it's dark in your house. If you have your shutters covering every window, it's dark. So that's why the lantern and flashlights are important.
And that's why, even as a meteorologist, and I love hurricanes, I don't like riding out hurricanes because, the most nerve-wracking part is you can't see outside. You hear all these noises.
Right.
You can't look out your window and say, hey, what's going on? It was the same thing in our office. Our office was boarded up. But we had security cameras, so we were just watching security cameras outside the whole time. But that's
as a kid, I loved them because you'd bring in all the patio furniture inside. Everything was boarded up, and you're it was fun as a kid.
It's the jam.
Yeah, my kids definitely love them. Like, we get like a million snacks that I never buy them, and then play games all day long, and they think it's great.
I think it's good to make it fun because
for sure.
And this is the thing that drives me absolutely crazy as like a born and raised Floridian, as I'm sure you guys also experience this. Whenever there's like just a tropical storm on the news or even a category 1, family from other parts of the United States checking in, like thinking we're going to die because all they play on the news is footage from Andrew or Katrina. And it's like, well, that's not what we're getting. And like, we're fine. We're inland, like, and the constant text from other people, like, you guys can come and stay at our house, book a flight, or, it just drives me crazy every season.
Yeah.
I will say a disclaimer that, every system is different, though. We've had impacts from tropical storms before. Like I said, most of it's storm surge. But like I said, Helene was a big example where I think most of us inland weren't really that affected by it. But, those coastal
But the news is just trying to, like, scare everybody, I feel like. Which some people do need to be scared because some people take them all very lightly. And don't even board up their windows when there's like a 4 or 5 coming straight at you, and you're like,
and we have a lot of social science going into the stuff we use, and because we have those people, and it's difficult to communicate with everybody because you do have those extremes. You have Christina who, is ready to board up her house right now, like they're ready to go. They're prepared, they're ready to go, which is great. But then, like you said, you have that other extreme where Cat 5's heading down. Well, my house has never been damaged by a hurricane before. I'm never evacuating. And there's literally police officers knocking on their door telling them, you will die if you don't get out of your house. And they're like, no, I will not. And
they're the ones you see being airlifted from their roofs.
Exactly. And those are the people we're trying to get. Those are the people that we're trying to, get. Like, what do we need to say? What do we need to do? What needs to be done to motivate you to get out of your house, to save your own life? We don't have to worry about the Christinas. They're going to get out of the way. We have to worry about that. we're going to have to worry about that other side of the population. And
so funny.
I talk a lot. I'm getting off subject a little bit, but a good example was I'm terrible with all the I name storms that have impacted us.
Inez,
the first one,
Irene.
Irma. That was the first one. That was like 6 or 7 years ago. I think, that one was on the East Coast and shifted to the West Coast. As the track got updated, people were freaking out. It was the largest evacuation. Storm shelters were shoved, and everybody's like, "Why was this storm compared to all the other storms?" People listened. Why did people care about this storm? It hit Puerto Rico first. Everyone saw the devastation it did to Puerto Rico, saw the homes destroyed, saw everything that happened.
Right.
And then they're like, that's coming towards us. That visual representation.
Yeah.
Most of these storms don't hit anywhere else. They're just spinning out in the ocean, then they come towards us. But Irma, when it hit Puerto Rico, people cared a lot more because they saw what happened there first.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. All right. Well, Jenna, you ready for our game?
I'm ready. Today we're going to play 2 truths and a lie. So I have 3 facts. I think that Christy and Christina should guess first, and then we'll let Steve
give the correct answer.
Guide you. Now. Some of them have already been answered. He already has spit some facts that are on my thing.
Oh, good.
So,
okay.
Well, let's see if we
have
can
a
pay
chance.
attention then.
Maybe. All right. So, 1. Some hurricanes have been known to cause it to snow after landfall. A hurricane once maintained tropical storm strength while crossing the entire Atlantic Ocean, Africa, and into the Indian Ocean. Or hurricanes can cause the ocean to temporarily rise by over 20 feet during the storm surge.
Oh, I think the snow is the lie.
I don't know. You think the snow's the lie?
I do. I think the surge thing is correct. I do think that's correct. I have no idea about that tropical storm.
I think the snow is the lie.
Steve?
It's the second one. The one about the tropical storm crossing Africa and all that stuff.
Yes. It does not do that.
It is not.
He's like, rookies.
They don't know what they're doing.
I was trying my best to keep like a straight face. I didn't want to
Yeah, that's good. I'm going to watch your poker face for the next one.
Turn him off. Block him.
Because some of these late season storms, like in October, they will ride up the east coast up into the northeast. And then how these things rotate around, how they spin, they will pull air from Canada and dive back down. And think about it, a lot of times, not every time, but a lot of times after a hurricane hits, a couple days after, it's kind of nice.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's cooler.
That's true. That's true. Yeah,
it is.
I forgot they hit up to the northeast sometimes.
Yeah.
All right, set 2. In 2005, so many hurricanes formed that the National Hurricane Center had to use the Greek alphabet to name them. Hurricane Katrina caused the Mississippi River to flow backwards temporarily. Or hurricanes can generate thunder and lightning in their eye due to intense convection.
I don't know, but I don't think it was 2005. Christina, was it 2004 or 2005 where we had those 3 back to back?
I feel like it was 2005 because I remember evacuating school a lot of times.
Yeah,
it was around that time. I think that one's right.
So you think the Mississippi one's wrong? Because they can do the lightning and thunder inside, can't they?
The eye is always really calm.
But the Mississippi one's
they have
so
lightning
weird,
and thunder.
like that.
The Mississippi one's so obscure.
Yeah.
I want to say they can have lightning and thunder in the eye, but I've never heard of that. It's always the calm of the storm. The eye is coming. Don't go outside because then it's going to get bad after. I don't know. Feeling pressure.
All right, are we going Mississippi?
All right,
or
fine,
are we going
go
the thunder lightning?
Wait, you go Mississippi, I'll go thunder lightning, and one of us will be correct.
Okay. What's Steve going with?
I'm honestly trying to remember if we used the Greek alphabet in 2000. I know we used the Greek alphabet when Irma hit in 2013, but I know thunder and lightning doesn't happen in the eye. It happens in the eye wall, but not the eye. So I would say C was the false one.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
It's very rare. She totally threw you to the wolf. She's like, I'll take the lightning.
Yeah.
I'll take it. Let me take one for
But
the team.
I threw out all of my information about it. I said everything I knew.
And another interesting fact, we used so much of the Greek alphabet the year Irma hit in 2017 that we don't use the Greek alphabet anymore because we were going to have to retire a Greek alphabet name, which would have made much sense. So now we have an alternate list of names. So we have our one list. And if we run out,
I like that better, an alternate name list.
Yeah.
But yeah, 2004 and 2005 were, I remember missing so much school because that was my first year of college.
It was so fun though.
Our whole
hurricane
semester.
Parties. Whew, the parties in college for hurricanes were so good.
Yeah. I might be
Super
slightly
safe.
younger than you guys. I was a senior in high school, but yeah, we missed a whole month of school.
Well, I was a senior in high school in the spring of 2005.
Yeah.
And then
You said you're 38, right? Wasn't
Yeah,
that in the
38.
intro somewhere? Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
But Yeah, for me, I remember they tried to extend the school year into like June because we missed so many days, but they didn't make the senior class do it because they knew we wouldn't have shown up after graduation anyway. So I remember we were out of school, but everyone else was still in school for 2 or 3 weeks doing finals and stuff. So that was kind of fun.
You lucked out.
All right, set 3. 1. A hurricane in 1979 was the first to be named after a man instead of a woman.
Ooh, I think we learned that.
A single strong hurricane can release more energy in a day than all the nuclear weapons on Earth combined. The sound of a category... Anything's possible. The sound of a Category 5 hurricane has been described as similar to a soft whisper due to its low pressure center.
I don't know about that.
Low pressure center, wouldn't the 5 be high pressure? Or no, the 5 is how fast. It's the wind speed.
Yeah, but the pressure
So I'm going to go with 2. 2's the lie.
I don't think a 5 is quiet. I think 5 is described as a train, I thought. Like a train whistle. I don't know. I'm going with that. I'm going with the quiet, that one. Yeah. I think that's...
I'm kind of confused too. Do you mean inside of the eye or just the hurricane sounds like that? I guess that's...
ChatGPT didn't give a they weren't real specific on their facts.
Oh, man. So...
Wait, what was 2 again? What was my answer?
A single strong hurricane can release more energy in a day than all the nuclear weapons on Earth combined.
That does seem like a lot of energy.
No, I feel like nuclear weapons is pretty strong.
Yeah. I think ChatGPT messed up the third one. Like, I don't understand. Maybe inside...
they needed more words.
Yeah, inside of the eye, yes, it's completely calm. I've always wanted to be inside of a high of a well-developed hurricane. So you can imagine all the winds and the storm, and it's hitting, and then all of a sudden it's just quiet. For like 20 minutes, the sun's out, there's no winds. And then it hits you again. Like, it would just be real. I get goosebumps thinking about it. Like, it would just be so eerie to be inside something like that. But I think I'm going to say 3 because I think ChatGPT messed it up slightly. I think I know.
Yeah, they should have. It's 3.
Yeah, I think ChatGPT messed it up slightly.
Category 5 hurricane sounds like jet engines or freight trains.
Oh, go
see?
Yeah. All right.
I'm impressed with that knowledge. That's your teacher knowledge right there.
Are you surprised by this knowledge? Because
my claim to fame is my obscure hurricane knowledge.
Yeah. All right. So set 4. 1. Fish have been found in inland lakes after being sucked up and dropped by hurricanes.
That's 100.
Yeah.
Hurricane Sandy's storm surge was so massive it caused the East River to flow backwards. Or hurricanes
have backwards rivers.
I know. Hurricanes have never affected weather patterns on continents outside the Americas.
Oh, that's false.
Yeah.
Other continents get hurricanes.
They don't call them hurricanes, though. Is it a nuance like that?
Well, 3 is the lie because hurricane remnants can impact weather on other continents, according to this.
Yeah, ChatGPT isn't great with weather questions. We actually at the office every year we have a bet of when we'll see our first named storm of the year, and so we were trying to research when was the latest we saw the first name, the latest we saw the first named storm of the year, and we Google searched, we couldn't find it, and ChatGPT jacked it up so much it was hilarious. Like, no, it's like fact that we for some reason why is this not anywhere? Like, why can we not find? We'd have to go through every year and figure out which year was latest. But yeah. So
whoever's in charge of ChatGPT, get with Steve Shiveley, and he'll correct all your weather-related questions.
Yeah. All right. So. 1. The fastest intensification of a hurricane ever recorded happened in under 8 hours. A hurricane once picked up sharks and rained them down on a coastal town. Or 3. The remnants of hurricanes can travel thousands of miles and cause flooding in Europe.
I hope the sharks is true, but I think that's the lie.
But the fish one was right.
Yeah, but a bunch of
sharks are too heavy.
I just don't know about a bunch.
No, there's little sharks, so I bet that the sharks could happen.
Honestly, I think the fish one was.
I think the fish one was true.
Tornadoes have been known to do that. Tornadoes have gone over rivers before, and then have dumped fish on top of people, because tornadoes are smaller but they're more intense, so they can actually pick stuff up and drop it. Hurricanes, they have that suction ability, but it's more wide and broad, so the winds are bad. But to actually physically pick up a fish and throw it in the air.
But what about pick it up storm surge wise? Because we see fish inland here through the storm surge. I think that was where my head went.
Maybe the storm surge. Yeah. Oh yeah. I guess that way. Yeah.
We had fish in our pool.
Storm surge could push a fish. Where it's not supposed to be inland. Yeah.
I guess it could do that with sharks too. Then maybe though. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think the sharks is true.
The sharks are not true. That's the plot line for Sharknado.
Yeah, this is Sharknado.
Plot line for Sharknado.
I almost brought up Sharknado earlier.
As much as we love Sharknado, that's not happening.
That did not make it on his top 2 weather event list.
That's real far-fetched.
Which I'm surprised you said the perfect storm was so far-fetched. Wasn't it based on a true story? Did they just embellish it more for dramatic effect?
Am I thinking of the wrong one? Is it called The Perfect Storm? I know what you're thinking. Maybe I named it wrong. It was the one where it was like
George Clooney.
I think maybe I messed up. It wasn't The Perfect Storm. What was it called? It was the one where it was like getting so cold that like a helicopter froze in midair because the gas lines froze and stuff, and the whole.
Yeah, I don't think that's
it's not The Perfect Storm. I know what you're talking about. No, it was a different one. Something closer. Right. They make so many weather movies.
They do. This is the last one. The eye of a large hurricane can be over 50 miles wide. A hurricane once created waves taller than a 10-story building. All hurricanes rotate in the same direction, regardless of hemisphere.
I don't know about 100-foot storm surge. I'm going with that.
The 10-foot building?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a lie.
It's C. Because in the southern hemisphere, they rotate the opposite direction.
Think of your toilet.
Just like the toilet.
I know. I was thinking that, but the second one sounded so false.
Well,
yeah, it's 100 feet.
It's not 100 feet. It's 10
Coriolis effect.
Yeah, 10-story. That's 10 feet a story, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm not sure about B, but I know C is wrong. I know 100% that C is wrong.
Unless can a hurricane cause a tsunami?
Isn't a tsunami a hurricane?
No, a tsunami is when there's
a wave.
From their earthquake in the...
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, they're very similar. I mean, they both produce storm surge and just in different ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, tsunamis can make even bigger ones.
Do you know the tool that they use to measure earthquakes? Because I do.
The scale name? Is that what you're talking about?
Isn't it the Richter?
Wait, are you talking... Would you say the earthquakes? Earthquakes.
Yeah.
Sorry, you switched storms on me.
The seismometer.
I didn't ask you, Steve. I asked Christina.
I think it's the seismometer thing. I don't know what it is.
People like to ask me a lot of questions about like the ground. I'm like, I if it's not in the sky, I don't know about it. Like I don't know much about earthquakes and volcanoes and stuff. That's not that's geology. I don't know that much.
That's all we got.
That was it. All right. That was a good game, Jenna. I like that one.
Good game, Jenna.
I worked hard on it.
Learned a lot.
Yeah, ChatGPT was.
I had to ask it multiple times. It was asking like kindergartner questions at first, and I was like, we need to make this harder.
Make it harder.
Can you make it harder? And then it was like, you've reached all the questions you're allowed to ask today on your free membership. And I was like, okay, I'll come back tomorrow. Please.
Good thing you planned early.
Let's get myself a membership.
All right, so you guys all have a bag with some, we call this junk in the trunk, Steve. We do it every episode. There's always a surprise in there. And for the first time, so we've been doing this podcast for over a year now. And for the first time ever, somebody opened their junk in advance. So I just had to call it out.
Around, like who?
Hi.
Anyhow, so go ahead and open your junk. It's a little bit of hurricane prep for you.
I will say it's because I'm a shift worker, so I was working overnights until like yesterday. So my brain's like a fog. So Christina's like, "Oh, I dropped something at your door, and I forgot the day before." She said, "Oh yeah, don't open this right away." And I have a tip. I was like, "Rip!" I was like, "What's in here?"
You know, the funny thing is, so I dropped it off with his wife, and I almost told Sarah, like, remind him not to open it. And then I thought to myself, I'm not going to do that to him because he's not going to open it. But anyways, then you opened it, and I laughed hard.
Yeah.
I would say typical male, but our first male guest didn't open his.
He didn't open his. We have these in our bins, in our hurricane bins. They're little mini handheld fans. So you can start your bin now, ladies. This is your first
How
item.
many bins do you have?
2.
Well,
It's all contained in 2.
5.
Yeah. And it doesn't contain like the water. That's not included, but everything else. And the kids just really thrived on these fans when our power went out last hurricane. They each have one, so they loved having their own little fan. And they're actually rather powerful for like a tiny fan.
These are. I like
So
you got me a pink one.
I did, yeah.
Thank you.
I will have to say, I'm sure, I don't know if this is common knowledge, but if it's someone's first time experiencing a hurricane in Florida, you can charge your stuff from your car also if you need to charge up your cell phone.
If you have gas.
Yeah.
Don't use too much of the gas.
You get I mean, how much gas does it take to just charge some stuff up?
Well, I don't know if you have your
quickly?
car running for an hour. I mean,
Some car, it depends on some cars. My car, I don't need to turn it on to charge my phone. It'll just use the battery of my car. So you guys can check it out.
Oh, yeah. Same.
Like, don't turn on your car, just plug it into the cord. And my wife's car doesn't do it, but mine will. I can plug it in. It just charges my phone even when it's not on.
All right. Well, thanks for all of your knowledge today. Is there any last bit of advice? What would you leave us with as we head into hurricane season? Really, in just a couple days, it's going to start, right? So what advice do you have for us?
Well, he thinks it's going to start later this year.
Well,
right?
I think it won't be as active as last year, but we do get, I call them junk storms. Sometimes at the beginning of the year, you'll get like a June, July storm. That's like a tropical storm that dumps a lot of rain on us. But I would just say, like I said, be prepared, like Christina said, and, plan ahead. Once you're inside a 5-day cone, if whatever you don't have, get it then. Like, get your gas, get everything. Right. It doesn't hurt. You're going to use it later because people like to wait until 48 hours beforehand, and that's when it all messes up. Like, the second Milton was in the cone, once I saw the cone, I had a hotel booked within 2 hours for my family. And I could always cancel the hotel room, but I had it. And then all the hotels filled up 24 hours later. No one could find anything. So just be proactive, get out there early, get stuff done, because a lot of people like to wait till the last minute to do these things. It's just too late for that.
Perfect sense.
Yeah. And if you live in my community, don't board up your windows until I board up my windows. That's when
I don't know. Some of us with 2-story houses have to plan further in advance than you.
True, yeah. The 2-story ones. Helped my neighbor with a couple of those windows. That's rough.
Yeah, that second story is the killer. Like, the first story I can do on my own, but that second story is too much.
We hire someone for the second floor because I'm not breaking my leg falling off a ladder.
And that's a wrap on today's Weather Wisdom. Big thanks to Steve Shiveley for helping us stay ahead of the hurricane season. Remember, keep your eyes on the skies, your emergency kits stocked, and your flip-flops handy just in case. Until next time, stay safe, curious, and don't forget to like and follow. Thanks so much for coming.
Thanks, Steve. That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was our most informative podcast yet, I would say.
I learned a lot.
We learned, yeah.
And look up what my modest clouds look like. They look pretty cool.
Oh, that's
Can you spell
one you
it?
said you would be.
I'm terrible at spelling. It has a lot of
Does
M's
it start with
in
an M?
Yeah, it's Mammatus. So it's M-A,
Mammatus.
M-A.
What's a cumulonimbus?
Mammatus is M-A-M-M-A-T-U-S. Cumulonimbus is just a very big fancy science word for thunderstorm.
Oh. And cumulus?
They're pretty.
Cumulus, yeah.
Very fluffy.
We're not recording anymore, right? Or is it?
We are recording. But breaking news. A 6.0 magnitude earthquake just hit Greece. It just popped up.
Oh, wow.
In such
That's
a timely way.
not his expertise. He doesn't know
I know.
anything
Sorry.
about earthquakes.
Sorry, he
I
doesn't
wasn't
bring it
thinking
up.
about that, no.
My apologies.
But I was asking if we weren't recording anymore because they're called Mammatus clouds because in Latin it means boob-like.
Ooh.
Oh. Perfect
They're
for
like
our
udders.
podcast.
They're like big udders.
It's a rare thing to see unless there's like a severe storm.
Yeah,
coming.
it's only when thunderstorms come or severe weather normally. It has.
be looking out.
Whenever next time you have severe weather, go outside and try to look for them, and you'll see these bomatus clouds.
Yeah.
Forming.
Look for
Wait,
the
but can I
boobs in
not
the
use
sky.
where you say it's boob-like?
I don't know. It depends on your audience. I don't care if you use it.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, our audience is
I
good.
did not know if it was like a PG podcast or something.
No, every episode I mark explicit.
Okay, well then you're fine. You can use it. You're more than welcome to. But yeah,
We almost
so-
weren't explicit with this.
I know
at
this.
all.
I mean, I don't even think boobs explicit. This is going to be the
Oh.
first one I haven't marked explicit.
Everybody has boobs, Christina.
We all got them. Oh man.
Oh
All right.
boy.
And on that note, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, you're welcome. It was fun.
Oh, good. All right, we'll see you next time.
All
Bye.
right.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Between Carlines is hosted by Miss Christy, Miss Christina, and Miss Jenna. Music by Lindsay Henderson. Edited and produced by Miss Christina. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week for all new episode. Thanks for listening.